So folks, good evening, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world. We're just letting everybody into the room. There's a few more to go at the moment. Could I just ask you, if you're not presenting, if you wouldn't mind just turning your video off and making sure you're muted, just so we don't get any bandwidth issues. Thank you very much. So this is the reverse of a normal day for us, because we've had a really good day of sessions, and this is the keynote at the end of the day rather than the start of the day. And that's largely due to the fact that we've got a fairly international audience. So registered for this 3-day conference, circa 1,200 people from all points of the globe. And fortunately for us, the team that we've got from IBM are all based in California. So it's 9 o'clock in the morning for them. So it gives me great pleasure to kick off this keynote. Meredith Stowell, who's the Vice President for Ecosystems, supported by Skylar and Aparna, and Meredith will do all the introductions. Accelerating application modernization. I'm going to ask you to provide feedback at the end. I'll drop the feedback link in the chat window. If you've got questions, in the chat window, and I'll moderate them. Meredith, I'm going to hand over to you. And Skylar, I talk just as fast as everybody else, so you have nothing to worry about here. Okay, Meredith, all yours. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here today and be with this amazing panel to talk a little bit about how do you accelerate application modernization. And it all fits within this amazing theme from a GSE perspective around mainframes are mad, modern, adaptable, diverse. But it's not just the mainframes, it's also how can we ensure that those applications that are running on those mainframes are modern, adaptable, and diverse. And so that's what this session is all about. Really talking a little bit about why the imperative for application modernization, what are the different capabilities and options that are out there to help accelerate that modernization. And then also, I'll go a little bit into what are we doing from an ecosystem and a skills perspective. Always love updating this group on that topic. And then we'll get into some discussion points based on questions that we've been hearing out and about as we're talking with clients and talking with users around the world. So I would love to introduce our amazing panel that we have today. We've got Skyla Loomis. Skyla, how about you introduce yourself and tell the folks kind of who you are, what you do.
So yeah, I'm Skyla Loomis. I'm the Vice President of IBM Z Software, which means I'm responsible for product management, development, and support of really kind of the software stack that sits above the operating system level. So from our runtimes to our tools and AI ops experiences and capabilities around the platform about 6 years or so. And before that, actually, I was in cloud. So I kind of have this like interesting experience and opportunity, and what I find really exciting about my job is really how do we marry those experiences together so you can bring that cloud native experience and get the benefits of it, but do it on your traditional applications in your traditional ZOS environment so you get the benefits of that, and really how you marry those two together.
Awesome, awesome, better together. All right, Aparna. Why don't you introduce yourself? I think you're newer to the GSC team, so I'm really excited to introduce you to this amazing audience.
All right. Thank you, Meredith. Hey, team. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. Yeah, my first time here, so this is really exciting. I'm a general manager with IBM Consulting, and what that means is that my goal is to partner with our clients and to help them across their complex and hairy enterprise estate, and help them modernize all these applications, right, as well as build out new applications. And I love the title, right? So I think we talk about it all the time. The mainframes are very, very modern. It's the dang applications that are all that need to be modernized, right? So I love the title. So back to you, Meredith.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Aparna. And once again, for those of you that may not know me, I'm Meredith Stoll. I lead our IBM Z and Linux One ecosystem group. So that includes our partnerships with our ISVs, our partnerships with our SIs, our community out there around building a vibrant, sustainable, skilled community for this entire platform. All right, so with that, I'm going to start off with Aparna, who's going to talk a little bit about why application modernization now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's get to the first slide and let's get to the meat of, why, right? So I think the why is very simple, right? Z, or the mainframes, are core to so many large enterprises, so many industries, right? While some of the industries, of course, rely much more than the others, but we know, like, it's the 44 of the top 50 banks, or the 18 out of the 25 the world's largest retailers, or 23 of the world's largest airlines, right? Everybody leverages the mainframe as their core platform. And guess what? They're not running trivial transactions. They're relying on the mainframe for critical applications, right? Be it credit card processing, core banking, reservations. Beyond these, even large healthcare companies, right, rely on the mainframe for their core systems, such as, patient health applications, as well as, governments for tax systems, citizen services, etc. Essentially, these are all applications involving large transaction volumes, higher need for data protection, privacy, higher need for security and availability, performance, and reliability. Now, we also see this very heavily driven around regulation and compliance, or real-time fraud analysis through running AI models on the mainframe, reducing fraud losses with AI inferencing on the mainframe, right? But guess what, right? While all of that is true, this is not easy, right? So if you get to the next slide, Meredith, right? This is not easy. And as I talk to customers every day, as I partner with customers every day, here are a few challenges that the various enterprises, the large enterprises, are facing. First is business agility, right? So mainframe applications and data can be complex, tightly coupled. And, sometimes they're able to find it very difficult, right, as to how do they improve their velocity. So they're saying, okay, I'm on a digital transformation journey, and just like how I'm accelerating my velocity on other parts of my my architecture, my systems, right, how do I do that with these core applications, right? And how do I keep up with business demands to be able to launch new services in an increasingly customer-centric environment? The second one is, how do I reduce risk mitigation, right? So there's complexity and risk associated sometimes with modernization. And because, mainframe applications are mission critical and integrated with distributed workloads, right? And there's, of course, some continuity risk for some of the organizations as well, right? As they might not have, the right skill sets, the right talent, right? And that's why, this community is just so critical, right, to reducing that risk. And third is, of course, cost optimization, right? So over the years, right, these applications, some of them have existed for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, right? But the workloads have kind of proliferated, right? So now there is a need to simplify and rationalize and, figure out what's the optimal architecture, right? And this sometimes becomes difficult as to, making investment decisions, right? And considering mainframe modernization versus, a hybrid approach, right? Now, in my experience, enterprises, if you go next, perfect, right? In my experience, I think enterprises that are looking at a hybrid strategy across distributed and mainframe environments, leveraging the cloud, as well as all of the innovation on the mainframe to bring new capabilities to market, are the most successful. So who are leveraging this hybrid model across their estate are most effective in driving business acceleration, as well as driving better ROI, right? So we call it growth for both, right? So we looked at, just last year, we interviewed hundreds of organizations, right? And we asked them about, their development, their new development on mainframe versus their new development on cloud. And guess what? They said, use of both mainframe and cloud-based applications to increase in the near future. So transformation is not an either or process. It's growth for both, right? Similarly, we asked them, what is the role that the mainframe-based applications are playing in their business and technology strategies? And 82%, this number was overwhelming. 82% of the executives said that their business case supports mainframe-based applications, right? And 73% said mainframe applications are central to their technology strategy. So really, really strong numbers, overwhelming numbers, right? Okay, so if you go next. Now, how do we go about doing this, right? So I think the important thing is we need to, the big size, the big, one size, top down, large modernization efforts don't work, right? So how does an organization take an iterative approach to modernization, which is custom to every client environment, recognizing that it's not possible to adopt a one size fits all tack? So look at the challenges, objectives, applications, data, non-functional requirements, risks, etc. Do a feasibility analysis, identify the modernization options, and then, of course, leveraging a lot of the tools that accelerate this journey. So tools for source code discovery or tools for discovery and visualization of data, both on mainframe as well as outside the mainframe platform. And Skylar will talk about some of the other tooling that is possible as well. And then most importantly, helping decide what's an effective workload strategy, whether you should be able to do cloud native on mainframe, or what does your hybrid architecture look like, or how do you do in-place modernization through either DevSecOps or linking your cloud native application through APIfication with Z, right? So then creating the roadmap, creating the business case, and creating this roadmap and executing it through an incremental approach, right? And that has really been a successful approach with a lot of customers. And I want to give you a few examples very quickly, and then pass on to Skylar. So if we go to the example, Meredith, perfect. Okay, so here, and by the way, there are tons and tons of examples. Now, this is an Australian bank. This is the first community bank in Australia. It's grown with multiple mergers. 5 banks have become one bank now, right? And really their motto is, how do you do easy to do business with, right? And so as they were trying to be on this transformation journey, right? We partnered with them very closely on, how do you externalize your product and pricing from your core banking? What does the DevOps roadmap and implementation plan look like, right? For end-to-end? What does this pipeline look like, right? Between microservices and Spark and end-to-end automated pipeline, digital DevOps setup. How do you simplify your business process, ways of working, whether it's your lending, your origination, your core optimization, and then of course strengthening some of the digital services and capabilities, right? So your product and pricing, your multiple entities, your multiple brands and core, and then of course leveraging automation and investing in capability where it matters, right? Some of the cognitive tools, cognitive care, customer MDM, application simplification, and embracing regulatory change and meeting the compliance requirements. If you go to the next example, right? This another bank in Latin America, their goal was, how do we improve resiliency and scalability of their overall architecture so that we make it less complex and more robust to accommodate their growth and new business, right? So we built out the mobile app with more resiliency, scalability, fully automated with DevOps, right? Application mapping and disposition, again, transformation roadmap. If you guys haven't heard about Garage, look it up, right? How do you leverage Garage for that incremental innovation, to be able to deploy some of your MVPs, minimum viable products, if you would, right? And then the overall reference architecture, right? What does your application architecture for your digital channels look like? and then, of course, reviewing the mainframe architecture and integrating the mainframe architecture, the ZOS, the KICS, the vSAN, the DB2, and the integration, with the main channels, and having a prioritized roadmap and recommendations, right, to be able to take them through this this transformation. I have many more examples, but I don't want to take up all the time. So Skyla, over to you to elaborate further.
Thank you, Aparna. Oh, was there one more? Oh, no, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, we can just head into the next slide. Yeah. And, and I want to kind of build on what Aparna talked about, and she talked a lot about, some client successes, as well as how, her team has the expertise and can really have a methodology for helping our clients embark on this journey and really ensure the right success. What I want to talk about are some of those building blocks, right, that Aparna's team can use and leverage and have the expertise and depth in, right, to help go on this journey. So, we think about kind of like different entry points or ways that, a client might approach thinking about modernizing and kind of where to start. Because sometimes that's a challenge. It's like, okay, where do I get started, right? And we think there's different ways that you can do that. So, part of the approach and ultimately, I'll just to take a step back, it's ultimately about a perspective around IBM Z and cloud together, right? So it's not about an either or proposition or having to choose one or the other, right? It's about having the, choosing the right platform with the best fit, for the workload, for the application that you're trying to use to deliver value to your business. And as you think about how you bring those together and integrate that, there's different ways to approach it. So on the left side here, you can start with kind of that building that right foundation. And there's a lot of things you can do around optimizing the core. Even just getting up to the latest versions of some of the software stack can drive pretty significant CPU and cost savings, as well as performance benefits for doing that. And so that's kind of like just really some basic hygiene, but that can provide real value to your business. And then as you think about kind of how do you start to break the Z platform out of the silo that it may be in, that's really about how do you start to increase access to your applications and data. A lot of this can be done through APIs, which we'll talk a bit more about, as well as how do you provide access to real-time access, perhaps to curated data in a way that is cost-effective and works with your overall architecture and where you may have parts of the applications on the cloud. Certainly, I think there's also a continuum of hybrid cloud integration, and how can you start to think about how you modernize those applications incrementally. So we have a lot of success stories with clients who start to, whenever they need to go in and touch an application that's in COBOL, for example, rather than doing it in COBOL, they'll actually do it in Java. And so they actually, that way they're modernizing the parts of the application that are most active, right? They're not touching the parts that are working and they don't need to touch, right? And they're also leveraging new skills to be able to do that. And then that also starts to give them the flexibility of over time, where do you want that service to live? You may choose to keep it on the platform because perhaps it's chatty with, to the transactional or the data gravity that's there. But you also have that flexibility to maybe it moves out into a tier on Linux on Z that can still have high network connectivity, but can start to get containerized and have kind of that flexibility, or ultimately out to the cloud. But vice versa, you can also have things come in again when they have that affinity. There was a client example actually of a bank in the UK that had this application. They'd written it in Java, and they had it off the platform, but it still had a lot of affinity back to. It was very chatty, a lot of the transactions and KICS and data in DB2. And so ultimately, they actually took that application from the cloud and dropped it inside of a KICS Liberty server, and had fantastic performance results. And so that modernization and leveraging that actually enabled them to be able to make that choice right at this point in time, and they can always make a different choice down the line as things change or make different sense for them. Another about is how you're really extending your security and compliance. And this is really, I think, one of the areas that the Z platform shines and differentiates from everywhere else. And so, how you're really getting the most value and leveraging that we've done a lot of work here to help make managing compliance easier with the security and compliance center. They came out with the Z16. And so there's a lot of opportunity there as well. Now we think about kind of the right side of increasing business agility and innovation. This is where you can, understanding the applications that you have can be a challenge. And so we have tooling and capabilities to help you do discovery as an application developer or as an enterprise architect to really understand your application landscape and what dependencies it has into other applications, other runtimes, different data assets. If you're going to make a change to the schema, what's the ramification of that to your enterprise application, and helping you to kind of figure out and manage that. The other thing that we see is enterprise DevOps, right? This is a really key entry point for driving agility. So how can you bring in more automated testing? How can you bring in, modern development tools that, kids coming out of college are familiar with, like VS Code, and use those to develop a COBOL, a PL1, an assembler application, right? And so enabling that development experience can really help reduce the friction and enable a lot of skills availability for developers for your platform. The next area is AI-driven insight at scale. And I think this is a really exciting area, especially with some of the innovations we've delivered around Z16 with the Telum chip and kind of, again, really differentiated capabilities. And so this is another way to think about how you modernize and infuse and get the most value out of the platform, as well as leveraging cloud services. And, we've got, ways to integrate with hyperscalers. We also, have a lot of differentiated Z capability inside of the IBM cloud, right? And so all of that is available to you. And ultimately underpinning all of this, right, we're focusing on how we do this in an open enterprise standard way, leveraging open source tools as much as possible. We provide architectural patterns and of course methodologies like Aparna talked about. So if we go to the next slide, this is an example, right, of where you can start to peel the onion back on one area, right? So thinking about access to apps and data, this is really about how you leverage APIs and how you can bring together some of that discovery capability with our ADDI capability, how you can actually build those APIs in a no-code, low-code type of approach, leveraging the z/OS Connect that's built into the IBM Z and Cloud Modernization stack, as well as then how, if you want to, there are various options here, but the IBM part of the stack that we offer is IBM Cloud Pak for integration that allows you to able to then, integrate and manage those APIs in a consistent way across your enterprise. So this is just an example, but we have versions of this for all of the different entry points that I just talked about, right? To be able to go into more detail as to what it really means. So, one of the products that I want to highlight, because it covers kind of a number of those areas, is our IBM Z and Cloud Modernization stack. So this is similar to a Cloud Pak construct, if you're familiar with those, although it's not branded like that. So we have a flexible consumption model across all of these and how you can choose which pieces that you deploy or don't deploy. But ultimately, we're trying to have kind of this end-to-end set of capabilities to help you with modernization. And it's ultimately optimized for OpenShift. So there's some capabilities that can run off platform and they're containerized, some of the tooling or some sandbox environments or the developer tools. But ultimately, it connects back to a z/OS environment. And you can actually install software using OpenShift with the click of a button from a catalog into z/OS. You don't even have to use SMPE for the software that's covered as part of this stack. As well as like how you can start to drive automation and self-service development environments. That's part of that standardized IT automation for z/OS. That's part of this as well. So I encourage you to kind of take a look and learn about this if you haven't. This is also available currently in the AWS marketplace as well. And we're looking at how we bring it to some of the other hyperscalers also. Kind of a specific area underpinning this, which are the patterns. So if we go one more, ultimately, there's a set of kind of, for the enterprise architects out there, a set of architectural patterns as to how you can implement those different entry points. And we actually have 15 of them identified, and they're all documented in the IBM Cloud Architecture Center with some more detail on some reference architectures. But we kind of fall into these 4 different categories: around the applications, around the data, and around how you leverage event-driven capabilities to kind of have that interchange and integration between the platforms and across the different tiers of your All that are the life cycle enablers. So when you think about applications, this is how you expose, how you can extend them, how you can enhance and refactor, how you think about the co-location of those pieces of the applications and some of those examples that I gave. From the data, how do you access it? What are the virtualization capabilities available on the platform? What are the caching and replication as well as transformation? And when do you choose these ones, right? Whether there's pros and cons, there's costs with some of these more than others, right? And so understanding, that's a lot of what kind of our patterns try to go through, is sort of understanding, you know, the benefits and when you might choose one of these or not. And then event driven. So how do you produce and consume events in real time? Kafka is a very popular integration technology these days. And how do you kind of do the right kind of eventing and sharing of curated information, you know, as part of that kind of architectural pattern and environment? And then ultimately, how do you drive that agility, right? Adopting that enterprise DevOps type of experience, that pipeline, so you can actually, in automated testing again too, so you can actually drive those applications through. And we have clients, some of them in Europe, who have gone from a twice a year big bang type of a you know, application window for changes to actually doing application updates 20 times a day, right? And that's so much lower risk for them because they're, you know, they're small little tiny updates. You know, they've built out all the automation to support that kind of agility and that kind of change flexibility and speed. And now they're delivering to the business so much faster because when a business needs an update, they don't have to wait now 6 months for it to hopefully get in. And if you miss that window, well, gosh, now you're looking at a year, right? And so there's a lot of, you know, I know it can sound sometimes like, how is that possible? But it really is. And there are peers of yours out there who are doing this and have achieved this in real life. Go to the next slide. I want to hit on, you know, kind of how some of this can start to put together. And again, you know, I talked about how we have reference architectures out there that really can start to put together some of these different patterns and even some of the different entry points to really kind of see how this can come together. And so I'm not going to go through all of this in detail, but wanted you to be aware that we have, you know, have these out there, and, you know, there are resources for you to be able to look at and apply and think about how they can work for your business. More slide, and I want to hit on a example of a client who has implemented what we call the Z Digital Integration Hub. And this is really about that ability to provide real-time curated information, you know, in a caching layer, so it kind of separates it out for read-only, and how that's really sort of unlocked so much value for this bank, M&T Bank, to do analytics for folks across their entire enterprise to get access and leverage the data without even realizing that it's on Z, because there are standard ways that they can access that data, whether it's SQL, JDBC, or it gets evented out and kind of delivered to them. You know, and I talked about curated information, and that's kind of there's some nuance to that word that I want to hit on for a moment as well, because, you know, a lot of times when we think replication or caching, it's kind of just a brute force. Let me copy everything here and just put it all over there, and then the application has to understand it and make sense of it. But, you know, an account, for example, is, you know, a set of a bunch of, it's not just, you know, kind of a single tuple, right, or a single value, right? It's, okay, you need to know whose account, what type of account, what's the value of the account, you know, and all this type of stuff, right, is kind of actually a bundle of information. And so this, what this solution does, that it helps you understand, oh, the application needs to understand that. Let me provide that curated package of information.
Are you all able to hear me? Okay.
We can hear you, but the audio was gone, Meredith.
Okay, the audio was gone for Skyla, correct? All right, so Skyla, sorry, we just missed that last little bit of yours, but I think that she was kind of pulling it all together. And then once again, kind of the key here is that curated information and the real-time information flow. So it's not just pieces and points of the data that's going across, but truly getting under the covers of what is the information that's needed and then transmitting that information from a cache perspective. All right, so thank you very much, Skyla. Thank you, Aparna. I'm going to take this and go a little bit deeper into the ecosystem, because Aparna talked about that need. It's not just a one size fits all, right? It's really looking at and understanding the different pathways for modernization based on the specific needs of the organization, based on the specific needs of the application, and having that flexibility. And then Skyla went into, here are the various building blocks that you can use depending on where you are within your organization and where your applications are. There are different places where you can start and leverage the different building blocks. And in order to make all of that happen, it's very important that we have a strong ecosystem surrounding that to ensure that we can help to accelerate that, ensure that we've got that community of skills, ensure that we've got that community of that ecosystem of ecosystems, such that you've got the third-party applications that are needed in order to support it, ensuring that you've got the services and the assistance that you've needed to help you to accelerate that. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about here. And let me know, is the sound coming across okay, Aparna? Okay, great. So first, I just want to hit on, we have an incredibly vibrant ecosystem. I just want to start with that and what we've done to be able to build this community, and you as a key component of that community. When we're looking at the ecosystem, we're talking about everything from what we call build, which are the applications, the ISVs that are running on this platform and supporting this platform, and also integrating with the platform. We have got a large number, as you can see there, of ISVs, but also open source communities. And it's not just the open source projects that are supported and the software that's supported on the platform, but it's also the communities that have committed to continuous development. We continue to grow, we continue to foster these relationships, foster that open source community. A lot of it is also through the Open Mainframe project. So we obviously do a lot of work through that to really get out there to that open ecosystem. As Skyla mentioned, it's so important to be a part of that and be an integral part of it. Also, skills. We need the skills out there in our ecosystem. And so while we are opening the platform up to ensure that we've got common tooling all the way across it, we can limit or minimize the upskilling that's needed or the specialized skills that are needed. We still want to ensure that we've got talent out there in a pipeline to actually go and ensure that we are leveraging this platform to the maximum amount. We have various skills programs that I'll go into. We've got clients and employers involved in these programs all over the world. Would love to see that grow. We've got learners. There are so many learners that are participating in this community. Whether it's, you can see there, we have 32,000 that are participating in our IBM Z Explore program. This is a learning platform that really is foundational. It's fun to work with. It's hands-on. You have different challenges, different code challenges. So if you're just getting started with the platform, or you know someone who wants to get started with the platform, make sure they check out our IBM Z Explore. It's a fun way to start learning. You can also earn some points and get connected with a really fantastic community of learners there. We also continue our academic student outreach. We've got a number of universities, and I'm sure there are some professors on the call here who are very lively and are very engaged with our entire community, helping to inspire those students and build those foundational skills. In addition, we've got a number of service partners, obviously IBM Consulting. We've got a number of other service partners that we work with very closely to ensure that they have the latest and greatest skills and are able to also help the acceleration of modernization. And then obviously around getting out there, it's not enough for us to just talk to each other about this, but really, how do we get the word out? How do we get the awareness of this platform and the capabilities? And that's what we do through what we call our influencers. So we're actually in the process of developing a brand new advocacy hub. So if you are interested in giving back to your community, if you'd like to get involved with students, if you'd like to get involved in other activities, whether it's presenting at conferences like this, or whether it's helping to build local meetups, you want to raise your hand to help, or even if it's just helping to spread the word, let us know. Go out there to our advocacy hub, and that's how you can quickly and easily get involved. Now, I just want to quickly touch on some of our skills programs. As you know, from a skills perspective, one of the key components of ensuring that we are able to attract the talent, retain that talent, and grow that talent is leveraging the latest and greatest of technologies, right? So what we're doing is obviously around simplification, simplifying our tooling, simplifying our interfaces, simplifying how we interact with the platform, but also leveraging those open standards and tooling, ensuring that we're common across the entire enterprise, right? So whether we want to leverage existing skills that are already within our organization over and helping with this platform, making sure that it's a level playing field, right? To be able to attract that talent, reuse skills that are already out there, whether it's Java, whether it's Python, right? Whether it's leveraging VS Code. We have all of this integrated into all of our latest training programs as well. But by leveraging that common tooling, it really helps to ensure that you've got that sustainable workforce and that talent pipeline for the future. We have three primary areas that our programs really focus in on around attracting, training, and then growing and retaining the talent. We have found a very successful model that works. And we tried it out first within the North American market, within the US market, through what we call an apprenticeship program. And we have over 30 clients who are participating in this. We have placed over 167 apprentices. And every one of those clients that went in for an initial cohort has come back saying, we want more. And why? Because it's a framework and a model that truly works to attract talent, to train that talent, and then also to enable that talent to grow. So we've also taken this program and extended it out globally through our skills acceleration program. So here's the model. Number one, you've got to inspire individuals. You've got to inspire students. You've got to inspire others to want to go into this field. What does that involve? Connecting with universities, connecting with students, getting employers and students in the same room to talk about the opportunities in this field. That's what we call our Z Career Connection events. We also introduce students at this time to our Z Explore platform. So they can go off and learn on their own and get badged in this technology. And they also have the opportunity to find out, is this something that they're really interested in? Do they have an affinity for it? Do they have an aptitude for it? It's just as important to know that you're interested in it as to know you're not interested in it. Then bringing back together those badged students, those badged learners, connect them with employers through a virtual career fair. And then once those individuals are hired, putting them through what we call the Z Skills Accelerator program. This accelerator program includes 320 hours of training. It also includes a success coach to ensure and help not only the individual to get through that one-year program, but also to help the manager. And we have found this to be, once again, extremely successful through our pilot that we did within the US, and it's now open globally. So we've got all types of different things that individuals can participate in, but the most important, as I mentioned, get out there, help to inspire the students, inspire them to learn, inspire them to come to this platform. Secondly, once they get badged, connect with them through our career fairs to then actually hire that talent and then leverage the Z Accelerator, the Skills Accelerator program. Now that accelerator program can also be used for internal hires or incumbents within your organization. So if instead you're looking to leverage the talent that you already have within your organization, you can also leverage this accelerator program to help get them skilled up on the platform. All right. I also want to talk a little bit about going into the ISVs and the applications and kind of going back to what Skylar was talking a little bit about around these different patterns, right? because it's very important, no matter which of these patterns you're looking at, whether it's application or you're opening up your data or you need event driven, you need those lifecycle enablers. The ecosystem plays a key role in being able to support those and accelerate those. And so one of the things that our team does is work with these ISVs, work with these open source communities to onboard them onto the platform to certify their applications, either certify them to integrate with the platform or certify them to actually run on the platform. We then also help them to go out to market, to grow, and to really gain traction within the marketplace to ensure their continued success and continued growth. And each of those that we work with really supports each one of these different patterns that, that Skyla talked about, whether it's the data and AI, whether it's security, databases. These are just a few. This is not the full list of applications. These are just a few examples of the applications that we have. In addition, from a modernization perspective, we have what I would call kind of a surround ecosystem. That's that integration component, right? So leverage what you have on the investment that's been made on the platform, but perhaps you need key capabilities to open up new experiences. Perhaps, for example, you want to do some pricing, or you want to do other types of capabilities that you don't necessarily have today within that application. Perhaps it's something that you can then lock on a third-party package, integrate that with your existing ZOS estate, and deliver ROI immediately versus trying to lift, shift, change, and redo everything. So take a look at the different types of applications that can actually surround your existing estate. Perhaps they can run out in the cloud and be integrated into the cloud. Or, as Skyla mentioned, perhaps it's a little chatty. I like that. I like how you term that. Perhaps it's chatty and you need to bring it closer, whether that's on Linux on Z or whether that's actually within a container within your ZOS, depending on the interaction that's needed. All right, all of that flexibility is out there. All right, so with that, this is just a little, once again, a little bit more on the different programs that we have available. Highly recommend, if you are an ISV that's interested in certifying on the platform, or if you know of an ISV that's interested in certifying on the platform, I highly recommend that they take a look at our Linux One Partner Network. They can immediately get access to systems, enablement, help with go-to-market, all available through our Linux One Partner Network to help accelerate that. All right, so that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation piece. And what I'd like to do is open it up a little bit for discussion with Skyla and Aparna. So if you guys are able to, I'm going to stop sharing and just bring up our screens if that works. All right, so Aparna, I know that you go out and you talk to a lot of clients. You talk to a lot of senior executives. What approaches or strategies have been most effective in really gaining the business support and developing that business case for application modernization?
I think while there are several things, I mean, it depends. I'll give you a consultant answer, which is it depends, but not really. I think the biggest thing is, team, I think this movement to cloud for certain organizations has been a hype discussion or an emotional discussion, or their board asking them as to how many of your workloads or how many of your applications have moved to the cloud, right? But in the last 5 years, that has changed a little bit, right? In the last 5 years, right, as a clients, large enterprises started to do this, they started facing the real challenges on the ground, whether those challenges were around security, or whether those challenges were around resilience or performance, or whether those challenges were around, you know, financial challenges as the bills started coming in, right? So in my experience, I think hybrid cloud is real now, right? So we've talked about it for some time, but hybrid cloud is real now, and it's here. And I think organizations, even at the senior most level, have a better appreciation for, you know, why they would continue to operate in a hybrid cloud. And what does that mean? That means, how do they leverage the innovation from, you know, some of our public clouds, hyperscalers, right? We talked about a partnership with AWS and Azure. but also how do they continue leveraging the innovation that exists on Z, right? So the biggest thing that I think that has helped a lot of these organizations is not just the technology case, right? For which application, for which technology, for which workload, what platform is the best, but also building out a business case, right? What makes sense, right? And a lot of organizations will, for example, begin the conversation with, I want to take my core engine and rebuild it. Guess what? Sure, right? But it will take you 3 years and $400 million, right? Is that the right priority, right? So I think moving that conversation from just an emotional conversation, to a real conversation, right, which is grounded in technology possibility as well as in business case is key. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, Karan. I think it's like kind of going back to what you had mentioned before. It's that incremental approach, right, where you're seeing ROI immediately and as quickly as possible versus let's wait 3 years and see what happens. How can we do this so that we can deliver new experiences, new client experiences, new differentiation, right, and differentiate ourselves as a out in the marketplace and kind of turn your existing applications into that gold mine that they are and truly pull up that value and leverage that. I think that's great. You talked about the hyperscalers, right? You talked about AWS. So Skyla, there have been a number of announcements, quite a few patterns that are out there. Can you tell us a little bit more about how we're collaborating with the hyperscalers and why, and what is the ultimate value to our clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is a really exciting development over the last year where we've really kind of changed the conversation and the tone and even the relationship, I think, between us and both Amazon and Microsoft from, again, kind of this either or to actually like we make sense together and there's opportunity, right? It's in the best service of our clients for us to collaborate and work together. And there's opportunity for both of us in doing so as well. Right. And so it's kind of a win-win-win type of scenario. And really, it does kind of come down to, leverage each platform for its strengths and how do you integrate them together. So we first came out with a blog in May of last year with AWS announcing kind of 5 joint hybrid patterns. And we published it on our IBM Z and Linux One community, and they published it on their Amazon Partner Network. And it was really kind of co-authored and jointly owned between us. And that was a really exciting first step. And I would say the market response that we've all seen from that has been huge. I mean, alone on my own LinkedIn posts, like the number of views and comments I got was, many times, what I get on other posts. But likewise for Amazon, actually that blog was one of their top viewed blogs out of all of everything that they have on their partner network. Right. So, I think there's a lot of excitement. And what I think is really great from kind of our Z perspective is that this is actually, it adds more credibility in the market to kind of our point of view, right? Because now it's not just IBM saying it, it's actually the hyperscalers saying it and us having a common message, right? And I think that gets to other personas that maybe, may not have as much familiarity with Z, right, within the enterprise, and kind of offers them that perspective and that opportunity to kind of think differently about the relationship between the mainframe and the cloud as well. And so this really has kind of been a door opener, right? And so we published a similar blog with Microsoft in December. With Amazon since then, we've actually taken it a little further. We've published some additional, more detailed blogs on a couple of the patterns, including reference architectures. We were at AWS reInvent, and we had some mini booth sessions. We had some demos that we actually put together showing, being able to do DevOps across, the AWS cloud using AWS Code Pipeline and that developer experience, again, for a traditional ZOS application, right? And then being able to deploy that, using our open standard CI/CD pipeline and tools into a traditional on-premises ZOS environment, right? And really how you can start to bridge that. And so, demonstrating that experience and making it real. So, I think there's a lot of excitement here. We're also engaging jointly with clients who are saying, hey, like, I don't want to talk to you two separately. Like, how about you come and like, let's have a three-way conversation, talking about what's the best strategy, for me, for my business, for how I want to modernize. And so that's been really exciting as well.
Excellent, excellent. Aparna, is there anything that you'd like to add to that, or?
No, I think we are definitely, I think, excited about this, right? Because I think our clients, I think 2 points. One, I think over the years, right, if you look at all of these enterprise applications, right, these are the hardest workloads, right? So I think it will require, IBM and some of these cloud providers to kind of come together to solve this harder problem, right, for our clients in terms of what does this hybrid cloud architecture look like, right? So I think that is key. The second piece is, I think, talent, right? So I think I want to make this point. In the last, decade or so, I think there is just so much more talent that has developed on cloud. And I think everything that you can think about, right, whether it's containerization, modernization, Java, APIification, microservices, AI, analytics, all of these skill sets, as the larger community has grown, right? It's not just on public cloud. All of that you can put to use on Z and mainframes as well. So I think from a talent standpoint, it helps out as well that they're more alike. The platforms are more alike than not, right? And how do you put some of your skill sets to work?
I think that's an excellent point. Definitely transferable, right? All the way across. So once again, making the most of your existing investments. So you talked a little bit about that a part of the hybrid cloud architecture and what does that look like? Sometimes we get questions around what is IBM's perspective on workload placement strategy, right? As part of an overall modernization project. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I could give you a consultant's answer and say, it depends on the organization and what does that architecture look like. But no, I won't. I think, this is not an easy answer, right? Because we have to look at, what the objectives are, what the applications are, what does the data look like, what does the architecture look like, and what do the skill gaps look like, and so on. And then, do a feasibility analysis, both from a functional process standpoint, but also from a technology. And I talked about the financial standpoint, and then figure out, okay, so, what are the workloads and where do they go? And why is that the right destination for them? And as you start to modernize, right, like, okay, so what can you do, as in-place modernization? So I'll give you 2 examples. For example, I think Skylar talked about it a little bit, but these 2 patterns are very, very popular with our clients, which is, okay, I have my cloud native applications on a hyperscaler, and I have my core engine and my system of record on Z, and how do I integrate this, right? So having an API strategy, very easy project, very easy to get started with, or okay, can I really truly have a pipeline if my distributed side and my mainframe side don't have a common DevOps, right? And so how do I build that continuous, CI/CD, if you would, across distributed and Z, right? So very easy to do. Then the question is, okay, how do I build out, cloud native on IBM Z, on Linux on Z, right? And so we are seeing definitely a lot of clients, especially with some of the ISVs as well, right, as to, how do you make use of that? But then the biggest thing is, okay, so what does hybrid cloud modernization look like? And in our experience, if you think about systems of engagement, right, your front end, right, your mobile applications, where you have a lot of your customer interaction, right, that could be built on a hyperscaler, right? But when you think about your core critical transaction processing or your data, right? That is best on Z because of security, because of performance, because of the 8 9s and the availability and gazillion reasons, right? So that's kind of the common adoption that we are seeing, like systems of engagement versus actual core systems or systems of data, if you would. But all of this process or all of this methodology is available to figure that out so that your estate is an integrated hybrid cloud estate.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. We are actually coming up towards the end of our session. I just want to once again thank everybody for participating. Thank you so much, Aparna. Thank you so much, Skyla. Definitely, we kind of opened it up. We talked about business agility, reducing risks, and cost optimization. And I truly think that through accelerating that application modernization, through all of the different building blocks that are available, through all of this ecosystem that's available out there, and all of these resources to assist, we can definitely address those key 3 things. And I know we're going to need you to, if possible, make sure that you review and provide your feedback to this session, but over to you.
Meredith, thank you. Skylar, a partner, thank you very much. I thought I'd got some energy, enthusiasm. I think I've been trumped by all 3 of you today. Thank you very much for a fabulous session. Great keynote, even though it's at the end of the day, but hey, fabulous. And thank you very much. As Meredith said, please click on the feedback link, leave us some feedback. And ladies, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy modernizing. Yeah.
Happy modernizing. Yes. Cheers, Sil. Bye-bye.